Say Colorado, and a hunter thinks mule deer and elk. That's right, but there are some giant whitetails out there too in the eastern part of the state. It's a well-kept secret, but not to big deer team member Willie Smith, who's from Colorado, and for years he's hunted a very special place out on the plains, a place full of rutting bucks. Some great Colorado whitetail action coming up right now on Big Deer. I started hunting whitetails with my dad more than 30 years ago. When I see a buck sneaking through the woods, I still get as excited as I did back then. No animal is as beautiful, mysterious, and challenging as an old whitetail buck. The longer you hunt him, the deeper he gets in your mind and blood. I'm Mike Hanback, and I live to hunt big deer.
Chris calls to tell me he's got a great buck down on opening morning. I couldn't wait to get out here and check it out and start hunting for myself.
Hey Chris, I'm at the gate. I'm coming up the hill. Where are you? In the shed? Can't wait to see your deer, man. I'm on my way. Thanks.
It's always great to be on this property and see what's going on, hunting our stands that we've hung ourselves, and just spending a few days.
Chris, look at the mass on this thing.
That's a buck of a lifetime, Chris.
Well, this is for sure my biggest whitetail ever.
And you did it on Drakeland, place we both just look forward to hunting every single year during the rut. Man, congratulations.
That is awesome. I got my last bag. You got some trail cam photos yet?
You know, we get our week off in the fall, everybody's pumped, you want to get out there and you start hunting. So we turn it into this deal where we get out there and we hunt 90% of the time, and maybe we think and plan and scout 10% of the time. Well, if you're a bow hunter, I think you need to flip that around. You know, come in there with 90% planning. Read your trail cameras, look at your maps, think about the wind, think about where you're going to set that stand, man, because you got to be set up for a 35, 40-yard shot at a buck. The more planning you do, the more thinking man's deer hunter you become, the better off you're going to be, the more big deer you're going to shoot.
What's that one there?
Hey,
That looks like your buck.
it is.
That's just a week ago.
I know we're both glad my dad started this place 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
He used to knock on doors and go get hunting permission for ducks and geese and pheasants around northern Colorado. And he started having farmers say, well, I just leased it to this club or leased it to this club. So he saw the writing on the wall and thought the only way that he could guarantee his hunting and hunting for me and my kids would be to own a piece of property, but didn't have the wherewithal to do it on his own.
This was the only way I could do it, so, you know, yes, there's, like you said, it's 20 members, but we got 20 good members.
We do.
You know, and everybody get along, and we have a great little club here, so.
This type of club and equity ownership allows you to have access to lots of acreage that you wouldn't be able to afford on your own, and for a fraction of the price.
You've shown probably the top end of what's out here. But you know, I think taking a 130, 140 class buck on here is great.
Yeah,
so
we got good genetics.
We got great genetics. Let's go look at the map real quick.
Yeah.
And let's kind of see what the wind direction with the new stands look like.
So what's the wind supposed to be out of north tonight?
Yep, north.
Well, you were over here.
Yeah.
Probably let that set. That's my favorite stand.
Yeah, because we drove back in there, you know,
recovered your deer and
recovered
everything.
the deer, so we kind of kicked around in there.
Well, we hung our new one over here by that new river pump.
Yep.
So if the wind's coming from the north, it's going to blow a little approach from the south, which is perfect. And we got bedding area, and they'll presumably be transitioning, and the bucks are cruising up in these willows.
Yep. Up and down the river.
Yep.
Checked on the wind, moving stand locations. I'm gonna hunt a stand that Chris killed his deer out of. And there's kind of two philosophies. One, if you shot a deer out of a stand, it's probably dead for a little while. Other people, and I think I'm in this camp, that you hunt a hot stand. The buck that Chris shot was chasing a hot doe. That left the hot doe unattended. We got the right wind for this stand, so we'll see what we can do. We had a small broken up buck that came through within yardage, and I passed on him. You know, anytime you pass on a buck, you wonder, is that what I should have done? Is that going to come back to haunt me? I knew it wasn't a buck I would have shot even if it was on the first day or if it was on the last day. He just was a little bit broken, and he just didn't have the mass, and tried to give him an extra year.
Probably not the peak of the rut, a little bit of pre-rut. We've seen some chasing, but because of that, if we don't see anything, we'll try to encourage something to come our way with rattling and grunting and some doe bleats. The stand has been productive over the last several years. One of our favorites, we call it the honey hole stand.
We've been sitting in the stand about an hour this morning and have yet to see a deer. We've seen a lot of good bucks on trail cam, so we know they're here. It's just a matter of getting them to come by when you're here. Hear footsteps, there's a buck coming. I'm gonna shoot that deer if he comes in.
Big Deer is presented by Cabela's, world's foremost outfitter. Also brought to you by Trijicon, brilliant aiming solutions. Remington, America's oldest gun maker. And Supercharged Scent Killer by Wildlife Research Center, beyond 99%.
Colorado obviously is best known for mule deer and elk, but I'll tell you, there's some giant whitetails roaming on the plains, especially in the eastern part of the state. I've had a few bucks on the blog over the years. This is an incredible buck right here, shot out on the plains, 200 inches, unbelievable. And they're big monster whitetails, and they're running around with the muleys out there in the eastern part of the state. Really a sleeper area. You got to draw a tag like Willie did. He's hunting with a bow this year. Hopefully he's going to get on a big buck like that, but he's from Colorado. He knows the terrain, he knows the habitat. Hopefully he can get it done. Some big bucks out there.
We've been sitting in the stand about an hour this morning and have yet to see a deer. Shoot that deer if he comes in.
Now, you know, a lot of places out west, you get a tag that's good for either a mule deer or a whitetail buck, and you need to do that because number one, it not only spices up your hunt, but number two, it doubles your chances for success. Now, Willie was close right there. He almost shot a mule deer buck out of a tree stand. How cool is that? I've never done it, but didn't have the shot. The hunt rolls on.
Oddly enough, the weather forecast was correct, and the wind just totally shifted. And we may actually set up a ground blind, try something different, maybe use a decoy as a different tactic this afternoon. You know, one thing I've always wanted to do is set up a ground blind in this spot. There's a big pinch. The river's right there, and there's this little strip of trees. There's a bedding area over there and a bedding area here. We got a couple of food plots right here. So with the wind from the south, which we're supposed to get a little bit on this hunt, I want to set the ground blind, tuck it back in here, brush it in a little bit, and then use a decoy out in here. I think that'll be really interesting because a lot of bucks also are cruising along the south side of this river, looking for does, obviously, and having that visual might help a bunch. Oh, come here, boys. I got something for you. I'm pretty excited about this setup. We got a perfect south wind. We set this blind up back against these Russian olives. You really can't see it. You know, a lot of times hunting's the anticipation and wondering what's really going to happen, especially on a new setup.
I was just practicing my draw to see how much room I had in here. I pulled back.
There's one right there.
You know, the rut is the most fun time to hunt. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The bucks are aggressive, fired up. You're fired up and aggressive. You can try it all, man. You can pull it all out of your bag of tricks. You can stalk, you can set a ground blind, rattle, call, use scents. Try it all. I sure do. It's the best time. The bucks are looking for the first does. You're looking for the first buck. Make it happen in the rut. Best time of the year to hunt.
I'm pretty excited about this setup. We got a perfect south wind. We set this blind up back against these Russian olives. You really can't see it.
I was just practicing my draw to see how much room I had in here. I pulled back.
There's one right there. I pulled back and she was right there. Wow.
I pulled a card from a trail camera east of here. I'll look at a few of the pictures while I wait for the big boy to step out.
Well, we didn't get the big boy, but we had some pretty cool encounters. You know, we just set this up today, and perfect south wind, this pinch point, something I'd always wanted to do. We just kept hoping that big buck could come out, but man, 2 does. One I think was actually a button buck, so a button buck and a doe came out right where I expected him, and then another doe came out of a food plot over there. She hung around here for a long time, probably got as close as 8 yards or something like that. Just wish one had big antlers on them, because they all were 10, 15 yards away. It was great. So I guess we'll pack up and tomorrow's another day.
You know, let me tell you something about the rut, because I think it's a common misconception among hunters. You know, just because the rut's coming on and there's some smaller bucks moving and the bigger ones are going to be moving, all that's right, but you know, it's not always going to be good. Every day is not going to be awesome. You know, there's not going to be bucks running all over the place. Someday the deer movement's going to be better than others. Some days it's going to be slower, so you just got to fight through that. You know, fight through the movement, the barometer, the weather, the wind. Hang tough in your stand till you make it out.
We had a really fun morning. The wind was kind of inconsistent, but we had deer all around us and they never winded us once. So we'll head back, grab something quick to eat, and make a game plan for a westerly wind. It's supposed to be consistent from the west and stronger for the remainder of the afternoon. We knew a front was supposedly coming through. We had a good north wind. Unfortunately, we got way too good of a north wind. This front came through. I'll bet you there were gusts up to 30, 40 miles an hour. There was some lightning going off. There was no way the deer were going to be moving. They were bedding down. So after that front moved through, we were pretty excited for the next morning, figuring deer would be on their feet. We saw one mule deer before light, and that was it. It was really, really quiet, almost eerily quiet. So we came back to the lodge and I said, you know, we're gonna grab a quick cup of coffee and we're gonna go sit in the stand all day long.
I finally saw a buck today. That always gets your blood pumping when you do a little grunting and doe bleeding and get some deer movement.
We need the big boy to do that, his grandpa. There's a mule deer doe and a buck coming. There's a whitetail buck coming next to them. There's a whitetail buck. There's a mule deer doe and a buck coming. There's a whitetail buck coming next to them. There's a whitetail buck. I think it just went down. We shot one more.
That buck might have been broken off, but he's a real trophy. A fully mature buck. He came in on a hot doe and gave me a perfect shot at 20 yards. You can't pass that up. I'm proud to shoot that deer.
It's not always about the antlers. Perfectly symmetrical, that's a big part of it, but you know what? We said Drakeland, we do this ourselves. It's not a managed property. We haven't had the best deer activity, and all of a sudden we did, and I'm proud to shoot that deer. Give it a little time before we're going to recover. I can't get Chris on the phone. I'll have someone to text him to come down and help with the recovery.
The cool thing is that Chris was able to stick around. He just was kind of fiddling around, going to clean the lodge up. I texted him to see if he was still around. He was, and it was really great to have Chris help with the recovery.
I'm glad you're here for this.
Hey, well, I was about to head out, and
I know.
I got the text saying, big old one horn down.
Brakeland performed, man.
Alrighty.
We got, what'd you say, the two biggest bucks on trail cam probably? Unfortunately, neither of them are complete sets, but
Yeah,
good mature deer.
yeah, biggest deer we've got. It's been a good year. Probably the best year we've had. Ooh, looks good. There's blood right there. That's good when you got good blood right away. Blood. Oh, look at him bleeding. Oh, look at all this.
There he is.
Right there.
Hey, buddy.
There he is. Oh, baby. Look at that. Oh. Look at that. You know, that really looks like the one you got a couple years ago with all the stickers on them. Look at that. You know what? 1, 2,
I think
3.
we saw that on the profile on trail cam. He's a solid buck, man. I could not be happier.
Man, we went from 0 deer for hours on stand, saw one little dink, I guess, to all of a sudden deer everywhere. So when it turns on, man. It just takes one hot doe running in your area, and next thing you know, you're loaded with bucks. We all of a sudden had a little mule deer buck, a little whitetail buck, a medium-sized whitetail buck, which we watched this guy run off. And then he kept chasing that doe and following her down into the drainage, and stopped, kind of looked up at us, and that was all she wrote. I love hunting this property, been involved with it really since my dad started it over 30 years ago, and just feels good to do it yourself, hang your own stands, and put a decent buck on the ground. It takes a lot of work, but the results are well worth the effort.
You know, anytime you hunt rutting deer, you are gonna have a good time. Willie hunted the rut hard and shot a killer Colorado buck. It doesn't get any better than that.
Big Deer is presented by Cabela's, world's foremost outfitter. Also brought to you by Supercharged Scent Killer by Wildlife Research Center, beyond 99%.
It still makes yours look that much more impressive. But just think if maybe these two did clash. And because there wasn't a time there to stop it, he came in and busted him off.
Yeah, but like you said, your left side there isn't much smaller than this side.
I mean,
You know,
put
when
them
you look
face
at
to face.
You know, when you look at it, you know, they're really not that much different.
I mean, this is a heck of a brow tine
Yeah.
for a whitetail. And you look at yours and go, oh my! Oh, good night.
You got brow tine envy.
Yeah.